Now that the distinction between the company rule and the crown rule is clear, let's get back to the book and understand the Regulating Act of 1773. So remember this very important point. After the Battle of Buxar, the East India Company had become a very powerful entity, very powerful political entity with powers to administer and collect tax revenues and whatnot. Therefore, in order to control and regulate the company, the British government brought about a law called the Regulating Act of 1773. Do remember that this act was of great constitutional importance, as A, it was the first step taken by the British government to control and regulate the affairs of the East India Company in India. B, it recognized for the first time the political and administrative functions of the company. Why do I stress on the fact that it was the first time for all these steps? Earlier, the East India Company used to basically govern and administer the country however it felt like. And now, they had lost that absolute control that they used to have. The Regulating Act of 1773 also laid the foundations of central administration in India. What do we mean by foundations for centralized administration? So during that time, India had three zones or seats of power, namely Bengal, Madras, and these three presidencies had their own governors, their own legislatures, and their own executives. Moreover, all the three presidencies were independent of one another. So now with this act, the governor of Bengal got a big powerful promotion and became the Governor General of Bengal. And it also made the governors of Bombay and Madras presidencies subordinate to the Governor General of Bengal. The governors of Bombay and Madras, who had so much independence and power earlier, would have been so upset, right? Anyway, going forward, who was the first Governor General of Bengal? Look at the book. It was Lord Warren Hastings. So could the Governor General of Bengal do all the tasks by himself after having such an enormous jurisdiction? No, right? That's why the Regulating Act of 1773 provided for an executive council of 4 members to assist him. This one bit about the executive council that I'm going to mention isn't really mentioned in the book, but it was colloquially also referred to as the Calcutta Council and sometimes as the Council of 4. Something along the lines of monikers like the Lutyens Media or the Khan Market gang that we see in Delhi today. The Regulating Act of 1773 also provided for the establishment of a Supreme Court at Calcutta, which was set up in 1774. It comprised of 1 Chief Justice and 3 other judges. Please note that this Supreme Court, is not the same as the Supreme Court that we have in our country today. Many people get confused about this, so please keep this in mind. The Act also prohibited the servants of the company from engaging in any private trade or accepting presents or bribes from the natives. This was a big bummer for the officials because they were so used to being corrupt and demanding bribes and gifts from us Indians on a daily basis. To be honest, this didn't do much to stop the corruption, just that it wasn't as open as it was earlier. The Act also strengthened the control of the British government over the company by requiring the Court of Directors, which was essentially the governing body of the company, to report on its revenue, civil and military affairs in India. So when we say that the British government wanted to regulate the East India Company, what we mean is that the British government wanted answerability and accountability. And who was accountable to whom? The Court of Directors of the East India Company in effect were answerable to the British government. Basically, the Regulating Act of 1773 was the first step to put checks and balances in place against the East India Company.